So obviously something metaphysical is happening, and that's what I mean by the reading itself is alive. Okay, it's like Frankenstein. Once you know this basic structure, okay, that's the skeleton, and you put the blood, flesh and blood on it, you know, that's all well and good, but it's not alive until you read it, read into it. Then it's alive. Then it is alive. And that's the part that can cause somebody to go out and drive off the road an hour later, okay, which is what Michener's problem was. Okay, so you're creating a psychic entity in someone's psyche. And maybe, you know, a lot of tarot readers probably don't even know this, okay? But that is what you're doing. And so you have to be very conscious about it. And you have to be grounded about it. You need to ground your client about it if you're reading something for someone.
This kind of makes me think of the Johari Window. Have you ever heard of that?
What is that?
Johari Window?
I don't know of it. Johari Window.
It's like, it's like the window, and it's known to me, known to others, known to me, not known to others, known to others, not to me, and not to me, and not to others. So there's the shadow, the one, you know, where
Right.
You know, that needs to be brought about.
Right.
It's what, you know, it's all for.
Right. Yeah, it's like the relationship between any two people. There's you to me at the conscious level, then there's my conscious level to your unconscious level, your unconscious level to my unconscious level, and so on. And it turns out that there's actually 8 different parameters there. They're all interacting, and
poverty.
The King of Wands is missing. He said so significant.
the King of Wands is missing.
It's not in here. I dropped the cards down here.
It's not tucked in your papers.
Oh my God!
You lack intuition? Is that what it means?
No, that's
I don't have any problem with
Lacks
it.
power. Huh?
yeah, lacks power.
Oh gosh, I hope your car starts.
The King of Wands is power.
We'll be in trouble
I
with
think
this
we'll
white
find
stuff.
it somewhere, John.
Oh, here it is.
No, you really don't.
Oh, it is.
Good job.
Thank you.
I got my power back.
Yeah.
Okay.
The woman brought you your power back.
That's significant.
They giveth and they taketh away.
All right. So at this point, I've sort of covered the skeleton of a reading. Okay. Now we're going to talk about flesh and blood, but before.
Is that too much?
So the flesh and blood is the 78 degrees of wisdom. So each of these cards has certain wisdom built around it. And we're going to talk about all those things. And so the second phase of this training is the meanings of all these cards. And then the third phase will be the layouts, which are different ways of laying out the cards for a reading. And all these layouts have different meanings. I took these pages from a book that my Indian friend gave me, which was about this thick and it had lots of layouts. But you can find layouts upon layouts on the internet if you want to. And they all have different meaning.
Yeah, and you can also just do what feels right for you.
That's right. So in my story about the auditorium, I can walk into the room and throw the cards across the stage and just read the cards, and it doesn't matter how they landed.
So that's a layout, technically.
It's technically a layout, but it's a layout that's not dictating to me that this is the past and this is the present. I'm just free-form reading. But my point is that I can read that way and everybody will think I read for them. Okay, everybody that'll give it any benefit of the doubt. Acknowledging that it's not magical. But what is magical, what is mystical, is what's happening in the unconscious of everyone who's hearing the reading. What is happening in their unconscious? And that's where James Michener got into trouble. Okay, because
He's a good storyteller. So
he's a good storyteller, right?
it seems
Okay.
like good storytellers could get in a lot of trouble.
Okay, but before we go into card meanings, I'd like to go around the table and see what you think about what I've been doing so far.
I just told her that my mind's just blown, my brain's back on the wall again, so I'll have to catch up by next week.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So, well, just think about it this way. It's like the flipping the coin example of bringing things up from the unconscious. Now, remember at the beginning, the title of this page is the Tarot, the gift of insight into your unconscious. So it's a gift of insight. And so when you flip the coin, that gives you a very simple insight into a yes-no question, right? But this is a full spread insight, okay? Very complex. And, the reader and the client don't know where it's going. I mean, and, when I was doing, used to do readings a lot for people. I actually have a duffel bag with a killam in it, which is a kind of rug from Turkey. And I had these cards, and I would take it out on the lawn over at the Naval Academy, spread out my killam, and do my reading on the killam. And I used to call it moving the furniture around. Okay. In other words, you have certain sclerotic ideas in your unconscious that you aren't addressing for some reason. And by listening to my reading, it's somehow breaking up that sclerosis and letting the furniture be resettled in a different way. So it's like moving the furniture around in your house. If you change the furniture, you're going to change the house. And so, it's normally not mind-bending, but, what happens is the reason people pay $50 an hour to a professional reader here in Annapolis is because it's cheaper than psychotherapy. Okay. It's sort of like a midway point between a girl's conversation, over tea. Let's go to Starbucks. I want to talk to you about a problem, right? It's a midpoint between that and going to psychotherapy because you're depressed, right? Because that's what a conversation does also. Conversation does the same thing. It allows you to move the furniture around, and this allows you to move the furniture around at maybe a higher level because you're consciously working with the archetypes. At least the reader knows that they're working with the archetypes. And then in psychotherapy, now you have somebody that's working with your mental health for sure, and they're going really deep. Okay, and I wouldn't venture, and as I've said many times in this group, I wouldn't venture to offer psychotherapy advice in this group. But what I do know is that you are moving the furniture around. It's at a level different from a conversation, and so you need to be cognizant of it in using it. These are not toys. This this is a serious thing that you're doing here. But it's a very powerful tool, and in Rachel Pollack's book, she's assuming that you're going to read for yourself and not read for anyone else necessarily. Okay.
Let's get out of it.
Yeah.
There's still some memorization, right? You have to know, there still is a standard, meaning isn't really a good word, but a psychic container for each card, right?
No.
That's fairly common. I mean,
Well,
universal.
yeah, I mean, they do represent common meanings. For example, the Empress card typically represents mother,
That's like dreams.
and a reversed Empress card might represent a bad mother or something bad that's going on with your mother.
The reverse is the shadow.
Yeah, reversed is the opposite. You know, it's the opposite of whatever the card would say. So, okay, some people that are starting out read only upright cards, okay? And the problem with that is it doesn't cover the opposites, okay? And if you don't cover the opposites, yeah, you might have a little bit less of a negative reading, but on the other hand, you also won't get the negativity out.
And then you take the really negative stuff and it's flipped around.
Pardon?
When you have a negative card and it's reversed, then that's the opposite thing.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
right,
That's a positive.
And that's a real positive.
yeah.
That's more positive than just a straight
It
up
is.
card.
Well, like the Ten of Swords, the
Mhm.
guy with the 10 swords in his back.
Yeah.
You get that, it's like stabbed in the back with hit rock bottom.
And that's a great
But if
example.
it's reversed, it means the crisis has already happened and you've hit the bottom and you're
Right.
up. So it's a really good currency. No one wants to see it upright.
So that's just how you flip it. It's like
Yeah, you
literally
just
upside down.
sure flip these and go through and you just pull out and let go of it supposed to be and you just keep doing it every time so it constantly.
Right.
What's really cool, that's when you've always taken great pains to make sure they're all turned right, and you're doing a reading, and all of a sudden one of them's upside down, you go, how did that happen?